Hey everybody, thanks for being with me here today. Before we get started on our project, I wanted to get candid with you for a moment. This COVID craziness has changed our world. It's changed our lives, it's changed us. And so I have been thinking of a way that I want to commemorate this time that I have to be at home with my family, this time that I have to slow down, a different change of pace. I've just been thinking of a way that I want to commemorate this because we know it's not going to last. It's all going to go back to normal. So I have come up with a very non-traditional, funky wall weaving here. Now, this can be a collaborative project where everybody in the household takes a part of it. This could be just a project for you. But the interesting thing is you just use what you got. You use what's around you, what's inside your house, what's outside your house, and just kind of commemorate where you're at in life right now. I will throw a disclaimer out there. I am not a master weaver. I'm very much a beginner. I'm not even going to be using a needle. Definitely wouldn't be using a noodle either. But I have this feeling if you are a master weaver, you really wouldn't be here with us anyway. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys to get the chance to really just spend some time with the people that you love. So for today's project, you're going to need some various weaving materials. The great thing about this particular project is you don't need yarn, which is great because I don't have yarn. I went all around my house and I scrounged up what I could find, which was some bits of ribbon, shoelace, some twine, some pipe cleaners, even baling twine and stems of grass. But I'm not really worried about what I have or what I don't have because all these materials are going to add some really interesting texture. Aside from these, you're going to need some scissors, a ruler and a pencil, a fork just for convenience, and a stick, which is optional. So before we get weaving, let's talk about what you're going to be weaving on. I have taken a picture frame and I have nailed in some nails here. I measured it out with my ruler, marked it with my pencil, and they are about a 1/2 inch apart, and I nailed them in. Now, I'm going to be using this one today, but you don't have to. You can make a loom out of wrapping some sticks together. You can make a loom out of hot gluing some popsicle sticks together. But the thing about these is they are gonna have a little wiggle to them, and you're probably going to want to leave your weaving on these, or else you're gonna have to cut them off. So these are just some options. They definitely work. I am going to be using this one. And the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take some of my twine and I'm going to make the strings that I'm gonna weave on. So I'm gonna take my twine here. I'm going to tie a knot, a double knot, on this bottom nail. And then as tightly as I can, I'm gonna go up and down, up and down, hooking it on the nails there. Now, once I have hooked on my strings and I've tied it off, I'm ready to weave. To begin my weaving, I'm going to use this shoelace. I think it's going to be the easiest to start with because it's got this nice point here, almost like a needle. It's going to make it easier to do that under, over pattern. So I'm going to go under my first string, over, under, over, under, and then I'm going to pull it a little bit and continue my pattern. I'm going to keep on weaving back and forth until I either run out of material or I just feel like I want to stop. Now I have this tail here. I'm going to leave that there and I'm going to take care of it later and move on to my next material. You can use your fork to gently push up your materials, making it nice and tight. It will make your weaving look beautiful. To add even more texture to your weaving, you can pull up bits of your material and leave it kind of tufted up like that to add some interesting texture. Sometimes when you have a thicker material, it's easier to fold it back on itself, making a little loop, making it easier to go under, over those strings. If you start to run out of material, or if you find that one side is just real messy and fatter than the other side, don't worry about it. I find that that adds a little bit more interest and a little bit more texture to your weaving. As I'm getting closer to the bottom here, things are getting a little tight, and I'm going to start thinking about how I'm going to finish this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start tucking some of these tails. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put it back through the weaving. I'm going to tuck it in there. I'm going to flip it over, pull it nice and tight. I flip it over, and now I can just find some random place to either tuck it or tie it off. So now I have trimmed and tucked all the tails of my materials. If I flip this over here, you could see that I just tucked them into the strings of my loom, and it looks pretty messy back here, but you can't even notice on this side. Now, I'm going to start thinking about how I want to hang my weaving. I can either leave it on this picture frame, which is quite handy and one of the reasons I use the picture frame, but I could also take it off of the picture frame and create an interesting wall hanging that way, which is what I'm going to show you. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some fringe down here. So I have cut some material for my fringe. I'm going to take one of these that is the same material here, and I'm going to do my under over pattern across. So I've weaved my cotton twine back and forth just a couple times because I want to leave some space for my fringe. I'm going to take 2 new strings. I am going to lay it across, kind of in the middle, these 2 strings right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck these strings inside and pull it out. And then these strings I'm going to tuck on this side and pull it out. Just like that. I'm going to repeat that all the way across. Now all my fringe is tied to the end. Here on this side, I ran into a little bit of a snag because it wasn't looped on a nail like these other ones. I had just tied it. So I took the tail and I just kind of tied it and tucked it up here so that I can loop it on there. Now what I'm going to do is very carefully, I am going to wiggle, actually I'm going to use my fork here, and I'm going to push everything up nice and tight as I can get it. And I'm going to go back and tighten up my knots just to be sure. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip all of my fringe up. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm actually going to cut off the bottom. And you don't have to cut it, you can also just unhook it, but I just think it's way easier to cut. Now the bottom of my weaving is finished. It is free flowing here. And so I am ready to unhook the top. And what I'm going to do is I am going to hook all these loops. I'm not going to cut it, but I'm going to very carefully just put all those loops here on this stick. As you can see here, I'm going to run into the same issue I had down here. So I've got this nice tail here. All I'm going to do is just tie a little end here so I've got a loop for my stick.
And there you have it, a funky, eclectic, non-traditional wall weaving. Now I'm by no means a master weaver, and this is far from perfect, but that's kind of the beauty of the project. It's not about the perfection, it's about the finding of the materials, it's about the process of the weaving. What better way to commemorate this change of pace and this time we've been given together than to get together with your family, see what's in your house, and take the time to create something beautiful.